Fate brings us to many places and many people where we strongly build up our present to capture the best of our future. We do not know what we will have to do in the future, so it's better to be prepared for any situation. Horrible situations like being robbed, kidnapped, or trafficked are some of the worst things that could ever happen to someone. These circumstances will lead to many negative impacts on the victim at these situations. But the people with fearless and unbreakable hearts would find solutions for their problems no matter how hard it will become. So today we found a real-life story of a man who had to go through a worse situation and had a terrible impact on himself. But after finding someone who trusted him, he gained self-confidence and built up a great career for himself. Before starting, make sure you've subscribed to our channel and hit the bell icon to be notified with our latest updates. Anatoly was heading home after a hard day at work and a tired evening at the bank. He withdrew a large sum of his money for the purpose of buying a new apartment for him and his wife. Anatoly took the money bag and walked quickly. He was already late to go home and his family was waiting for his arrival. As he had spent a long time at the bank and as he was late, he took a shortcut home. The roads were dark and he had a bad feeling about changing the day-to-day road. As he was having a large sum of money and some very important documents at the company he worked for, he became more and more nervous. Suddenly, he heard a sound of footsteps approaching him. He did not see anyone while passing by, so he started to panic. He speeded up and started to walk fast as he heard the footsteps of many people approaching him. In no time, the group of people started to harass Anatoly. Two of them grabbed the money bag and the documents from Anatoly, while another grabbed Anatoly himself and beat him. After grabbing the bag with all of Anatoly's belongings, the thieves ran away. Anatoly was so shocked and raged that with the bloody wounds, he ran behind the gang of thieves. Soon they were near a large forest where there were no people. The thieves found it easy to beat up this man at this spot so that no one will know what happened to him. They let Anatoly chase them into the dark forest and then they beat him up until he was half dead. Anatoly could not even raise his head. His clothes were covered with blood. He felt dizzy and soon he was unconscious. Hours passed and no one noticed this half-dead man laying on the ground in the dark forest. However, there was a passing man who found Anatoly and took him to a nearby hospital with the help of some other people. He was quickly diagnosed by the doctors, where they found that Anatoly's brain was severely damaged, that he could not remember anything about himself or what happened to him. The hospital staff could not find a way to get the details of Anatoly's family members. They did the best to recover him quickly, but nothing was working positive from the side of Anatoly. He spent months in the hospital without a single % regain of his memory. The hospital and the police tried their best, but could not find a way. Although Anatoly has not regained his memory back, he was physically fit and stable, so the hospital decided to discharge him from the hospital. Anatoly took his clothes, the only belongings that he had, and stepped out of the hospital. He did not know what to do. Therefore, he kept idling in the streets. He ate what he begged for and slept in the dark and windy streets. 3 years passed and one day, he gained his memory back all of a sudden. He could remember who he was and what happened to him 3 years ago. He was so sad and worried about his family, but he could not make up his mind to go back again. He lost the precious money which his family was looking forward to buy a new house with. And also, he lost the most important documents of his company, so he was devastated. He thought that his family might have abandoned him because of his mistake and his wife must have divorced him and married another man. These thoughts ran across his head and made him suffer a lot. He made a promise that he will never go back home again. He walked passing many streets, begged for food and water. He kept idling in the streets for years and years. He was not sure about his future and he was not willing to start a new life. Days passed and on one cold day the snow was so powerful and unbearable. Anatoly could not stay in the streets because of the wind. He was shivering and was idling seeking some shelter. He got a great idea though. He bought a bus ticket from the nearby bus stop and got onto it. The driver was furious about this man with a long beard and dirty clothes, but he could not stop the man from entering this bus because he did have a ticket in his hand, the same as the other people. Anatoly felt a sense of warmth inside the bus and he was happy for some reason. He saw the cold winds and snow falling heavily outside the bus and was glad to be in the bus. After a few minutes, he fell into a deep sleep and woke up with astonishment as he remembered that it was his birthday the next day. He felt so sad for not being able to celebrate his birthday with his family for 10 long years. He thought of having a haircut and shaving his long and ugly beard so that he can spend his birthday clean as he was before. He got out from the bus and walked down the road to the mall where he saw 2 salons. He wanted so much to go inside and have a haircut, but he did not have any money to afford it. Therefore, he stayed at the doorstep and watched people visit the salon and get their hair and beard done. One of the barbers in the salon saw Anatoly standing near the door. He went near him and asked why he was standing there and whether he needed any help. Anatoly was surprised with the kindness of this young man that he could not believe his ears. He shyly said to the barber that he wanted to have a haircut, but he didn't have any money. The young man told Anatoly to come inside and sit where Anatoly said it was okay and he will stay outside. 2 more new customers came and the barber started to attend them. After that, he asked Anatoly to come and sit on the chair in front of the mirror. Anatoly was so much touched by the kindness of this man. This young man was called Sergey. He trimmed Anatoly's long hair and even shaved his beard completely. Sergey saw that this man was having a nice figure and that he could even become a model after some good practice. He went to this boss and told him about Anatoly, where the boss also saw the handsome physique of this man and offered to help him. He bought some new clothes and gave it to Anatoly. Sergey asked Anatoly to take a shower and dress in these new clothes. Anatoly was thankful for both the boss and employee. After having a shower and new clothes, he thought about himself as a new man. All his blank feelings disappeared and he wanted to start again. Sergey asked Anatoly to stay at the salon until his work was off, so he could visit his home and have dinner with him. Anatoly said he was so much thankful for his kindness, but he cannot bother him again. Sergey warmly smiled at Anatoly and said that it was no trouble as he didn't have anyone to talk to at home. So after work, both of them went to visit Sergey's place where they had dinner and a drink. Anatoly was so happy after ages and told Sergey his story. The next day, without the acknowledgement of Anatoly, Sergey posted some of his photos before and after the haircut with Anatoly's story as the caption. Soon, this post was seen by his sister, where she couldn't believe her eyes. All the family members were trying so hard to know what happened to Anatoly. They searched for years but could not find any news about him. Sometimes they thought that he might be dead. His wife and his sister were the only ones who believed that he might be living. The elders of the family suggested that his wife should marry someone else, as she was young and beautiful, but she thought that someday he might come again. After seeing this post by Sergey, the sister showed it to her husband, where he did not believe that the man in the photo was Anatoly, because he thought that no matter what, Anatoly will never stay away from home, idling in the streets as a beggar. But her sister was so sure that it must be Anatoly in the post, so she wanted to visit the salon and get more information about him. But she and her husband visited the shop and asked Sergey about Anatoly, where he said Anatoly was there a few weeks ago but had lost contact with him for several days after he'd left in search of a job. They were so shocked to hear, and they were devastated that he'd left the place. Without much hope, they walked down the streets and were surprised to see someone looking like Anatoly sitting in a coffee shop with a blank face. His sister approached him slowly and found that it really was Anatoly. She ran and hugged him, where Anatoly was also surprised to see his sister and brother-in-law. They cried a lot after hearing the story of Anatoly. She felt so sorry for his brother and told him to not worry. All 3 of them went home again, and on their way, Anatoly looked so much anxious, where his sister asked why. He nodded his head and said nothing was wrong. After visiting the house where his wife was now living, he became more anxious to see her. The real problem he had in his mind was about his wife. He did not know that she was always waiting for him without thinking about any other men. The doorbell rang and the wife of Anatoly opened the door as usual. But after she saw Anatoly in front of her, she fell onto her knees and cried a lot. She was both so happy and sad seeing Anatoly. All the family members were very happy for his arrival. So that's the end of today's story, where we brought you a video about how people changing after a tough situation and how much difference a kind heart can make in one's life. Make sure to be subscribed to our channel and hit that bell notification button to be notified with our latest updates. See you in our next video.